All right. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Whiteboard Brief podcast. And my good buddy Jason is back. What is this, year 2, 3?
This is year 2 of a strong partnership, but I think we've been chatting for about 3 years.
Yeah, and we did the podcast last year,
Yep.
which was awesome. I think Coach Nick joined us for that one.
That's right.
And yeah, I'm excited, man.
Yes.
Bring that a little bit closer to your mouth so
Sure,
I can hear
I
you.
will.
Let me make sure that everybody else can hear you. Say something.
Hello.
All right, we're good.
All right.
All right, man. So give the people a little bit of a rundown. I'm sure a lot of people are going to remember you from last year and everything that we do come November. But give a little bit of rundown in Movember and what you're on an adventure for in the month of November. And, you know, we're going to get into how important that is and everything and why we have this partnership that we do.
Sure. Well, thanks again for having me. I really appreciate John and his leadership and his space that he creates for members here, and so welcoming. I remember, I think 2 years ago, I sent a blind email out to a bunch of people, and John's enthusiasm for his response was like unprecedented. So one of the more welcoming, hospitable people I know, so thank you for that. And I think it's a perfect partnership based on the community he creates here. My campaign for Movember each year is both personal and kind of philanthropic. Movember is an international charity that's aimed at men's health, and it has to do with physical health, mental health, prostate cancer, relationships, connections, isolation, depression, anxiety, all those things. And basically it's trying to educate and prevent illness and promote wellness for men across the globe. I've been through my own mental health journeys. I know we've chatted about different ways. We've both gone through various challenges in our life, and I think that one of the ways that has worked for me, and I know you, is through community. And for me, CrossFit has been a wonderful partner for my Movember campaign. 2 years ago, I did 30 gyms in 30 days, which was how we first met. Your gym was one of my gyms in 30 days. This year I'm raising money. I'm trying to do it a little bit different this year. Last year I did 30 dates with 30 male friends, 30 mates. And I'm trying to do something this year as I get older that doesn't require me to do something intense every day because it's just a lot. And we can talk a little bit more about what I'm trying to do this year, but the mission is the same, which is to raise awareness and funds for Movember and men's health.
That's awesome, man. And, I know that, as guys dealing with stuff, most of the time reluctant to even talk about it.
Yep.
And, it's getting on avenues like this where we can get out and we can talk about all the things that we do deal with. That just makes it a common conversation.
Yep.
And when it becomes a common conversation, then people are more likely to reach out, maybe to even the person that they heard talking about it. And if it can provide anybody any type of help or, even sometimes just going out with a buddy.
Yep.
is all that needs to be had right there, and it makes you feel so much better.
Yeah, there's a kind of a tendency for men to suffer in silence. For some reason, men feel like they're burdening other people when they're feeling something, whether it's depression, anxiety, confusion, overwhelmed, whatever. They tend to isolate and then say, I need to fix this on my own. Nobody should suffer in silence. Everyone is loved by multiple people, hopefully. And it's upon us to reach out and ask for help. People want to help people. It's just, for some reason, men have a problem with kind of internalizing versus externalizing what they need to be supported and then asking for help. So I think part of the work I try to do, and I know that in communities we want to celebrate vulnerability.
Yeah.
When you're not doing well, ask a friend for help. Go for a workout, go for a walk. Can we have a cup of coffee? And those things are minor, but by just showing up for people and accompanying them in their suffering, it makes it bearable, and it makes it like so that you have the motivation to go through it a couple more days or another week and just kind of maybe see some glimmer at the end of the journey. And I think that kind of that friendship piece is really important when you're suffering.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people lose that aspect of it too as they start to get older because, whether you get married, you have kids, you're in the day-to-day grind, and it's like, we've all experienced it. You start to lose touch with some of your friends as you start to go, and, that's where I think CrossFit comes in to a big portion of this is because at least for an hour when you come in here, you get to see the people that you spend a lot of time with. And, if you're at the gym for long enough and it does become part of your life, like you and I, that becomes your family.
Yep.
And, breaking down these barriers of, not just having it be exercise, but, you know, hey, I'm struggling. You want to get a beer after, or, you know, whatever it might be, or hey, let's go get a workout during open gym together, where it's not like crazy class setting, but, you know, at least we can just hang out and shoot the shit. Like, this becomes a big piece of that.
Yeah, and I think there's an accountability piece too. If you work out with the same people, you know, the majority of the time, and then you don't show up for 5 days, people are going to be texting you more than likely.
Oh my God.
You doing okay? Where are you? Hey, you know, I'll come pick you up. Let's make a workout this weekend. I'm busy. Well, I'm busy too.
Yeah.
Let's show up together. Bring your laptop. We'll go to a coffee shop after. And there's multiple ways to do it, but, you know, for me, CrossFit is killing two birds with one stone. It's the fitness piece and then the community piece. For some reason, as we get older, we're almost feeling bad if we do things with our friends. I have so much more to do. I'm so responsible to all these people and my family and my job. It's like, that is social health. We need to be, we're social beings, and that time where we can be with our friends, whatever shape or form it takes, is really important. And for those people that say, I'm too busy for that, my question is, if you were happier because of your social health and you felt more connected, I guarantee you'd be probably more, more efficient at work because you're feeling better. You're just in a better mood. So I think that one of the things I've heard one time is, like, you got to sharpen your saw in order to cut down trees. Like, you know, we can't be good for others if we're not healthy ourselves. So I think that's part of it too, is rewriting that script that says, I'll get to myself last.
Yeah.
You know, once I do all the other things, and my contention is get to yourself first.
Yeah.
You know, and more than likely, if you get to yourself first, whether it's an hour a day, half an hour a day, you can still do all the other things you need to do.
Yeah.
And you're just going to feel better about yourself.
Where do you think that stems from? Because this is something that I see all the time, and I try to get people to understand it, that, you know, it's like hustle, 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 hustle. One thing has to matter. But, you know that I talk about it all the time with my mentorship group and my mentor and, you know, my peers that are in that group. And I communicate that to everybody in the community as well. It's like, it can't just be one lane. Like, it can't just be work. You know, you have to take care of yourself too. And a lot of people feel bad about that. They're like, well, you know, I have a family to take care of, or, you know, whatever the situation might be. And then they feel reluctant to take care of themselves. But, you know, at a super dumb analogy, like when you get on an airplane, they tell you to put your oxygen mask on first, because you're no good to anybody else if you're not situated. You can't handle those situations and show up in your full self if you're not there. And it's like, I'm grateful that they talk about that in my mentorship group, because I know this business ownership thing would be very challenging if I wasn't taking the time for myself and doing those things and taking care of the personal side of it.
Yeah. For some reason, as a society, we've equated excellence with overworking. You know, the more I work, regardless of the outcome, the more I work, the more hours I spend, the longer I'm at work, the better. And that's not necessarily true. In my research, I just did my doctorate last March and graduated, which was different than from when we last talked. So
yeah, you were working on it back then.
Yeah, I'm done now. So that's it was a great accomplishment, and I feel really proud of it. But one of the things I learned is that there's this thing called masculinity culture contests. And in workplaces or organizations, the men typically have a contest to see who can be the hardest worker.
Of course.
You know, make the most sacrifices, pass up the vacation, pass up the paternity leave. Like, I'm working too hard. Like, I'm too important. I can't do that. I can't take all my vacation days, or I'm going to work while I'm on vacation. And if you sit back, you're like, who's that for?
Yeah.
Like, who is it for? Is it for you? Or is it for all the other people, and is it necessary? And you know, one of the things I think about in people in leadership is all the decisions you make teaches other people what's permissible. Mm-hmm. So if you're the leader and you're working 70-hour weeks, everyone else thinks that they need to do that as well. If you're the leader and you're taking phone calls and sending text messages at 9 p.m. to your employees, then they think that's what's necessary. So they're going to rise to that. And I think one of the challenges that I would love leaders to be able to feel comfortable doing is setting some boundaries for both themselves and for the people they manage, because, you know, what a healthy thing it would be if people didn't email on the weekends. What a healthy thing if people didn't respond to emails, you know, after 5 p.m. But I think for some reason we've equated like excellence with hyper commitment. Mm-hmm. And commitment, you know, it can go too far as well. So I think a lot of that's tied into masculinity as well.
I mean, I lived and breathed that for 8 years prior to owning the gym. I was in the construction industry, and I was a superintendent. And, everybody that was on that site would be like, oh, they would take pride on the first one to show up to the job site. They would take pride on the last one to leave at the end of the night, and like all that different stuff. If you took a vacation, oh, it must be nice.
Yep.
That was that whole mindset. And it was awful. Like, that's where my depression kicked in. That's where I experienced all that different stuff. And I started to have that realization that, life didn't have to be this way. Like, it could be different. You could look at it a little bit different. And I've tried to take that with me as I go forward, and, being a leader in here with my staff and, my whole community, is I try to make sure I set those boundaries, and I'm not only, asking them how work is going, but how are you doing? How is your workload affecting you? Like, even Coach Nick, he just had a baby in the last 6 months, and I'm like, well, when are you spending time with him so that you have time for family time? And like, I make sure all that stuff happens. And I can definitely be better in different avenues. I think it's, part of our society that we're so connected that it makes it very easy to send something out and, oh, let me just send out this email so everybody knows it. But, everybody's phone vibrates, everything pings. And it's like, you can be more conscious of that at night when, people are sitting down with the family and they're getting that personal time. And I will tell you, if you're not aware of that, like I wasn't back then, and I'm well aware of it now, it will throw your mental mindset off so much.
Yep.
And you just need to really make sure that you're filling all of those cups for yourself, or else you're going to find yourself in just this spiral that you don't know where the light at the end of the tunnel is.
Yep. And Movember is like, obviously it's a male-centric fundraising effort, but I think one of the things to realize is that kind of we're more alike than we are different. And, so there's a gender equity piece to this, because if men are healthier and they have more balance in their lives, that affects everyone. It affects their partners, their children, their coworkers, male, female, whatever. And I think that one of the things that we have to understand, again, is that, like, we can't have shame for taking personal days, right? Like, I'm going to take a personal day. I was thinking about doing a post on this today, but today's a holiday, and like, I made a personal commitment to myself that I'm going to do a lot of cool things today. I'm going to go have a podcast with John. I'm going to get a good workout. I'm going to go get my meals. I'm going to do all the things I need to do. And then I'm also working on some side hustle stuff. I owe it to myself to do that. I'm not going to do all the tasks that I do on an ordinary day today. I owe it to myself. And I think one of the things that my partner and I, Melissa, my wife, one of the things that we have an agreement about is, if you ever want to work out or see your friends, it's an unspoken agreement that you do that, and I will take care of the rest. So today I said, I want to do a podcast. I want to go work out. I want to take some time for myself. And she's like, great, I will take the kids. And then there's things where she'll want to do that, and it's unspoken, yes, I got it. And I think that if you as a couple in your relationships, if you're, have a partner, if you're not talking about those things, I think it's really unfortunate, because I think if you're not great at communicating, if I do something for myself, the other person might make them feel guilty about it, or they might think their priorities are off. But as long as you're talking and you say, the priorities for me are to be healthy socially, emotionally, physically, so that I can help you in our partnership and all other areas of my life. And there are going to be times where I'm going to put myself first, and not feel selfish or guilty about it. And I think that's part of health too, is like communicating those needs.
Yeah. Something that I've learned is communication and assumptions are going to be the number one thing that will lead to resentment. And the last thing that you want in a relationship of any kind is to poorly communicate and assume certain things to the point of you start to resent that other person. And just like you explained, like, it can very much happen in a couple, in a family setting. It's like, well, hey, I need to go work out and I want to do these things for myself so that I'm being fulfilled. Well, it's like, well, if you start to look at it like, well, they get to do that and I have to be stuck with the kids and whatnot. And it's like, no, like, that communication needs to be opened up right away, because if you don't have that personal side, like we said before, like, things start to go downhill personally, and then you just get into this pit. And, every time we do this podcast, we both get super vulnerable, right? My depression started when I was in that other culture where it was work, construction industry, everybody was trying to outdo the other person, and it made my relationship suffer. Like, if I didn't make a decision at that point, when Courtney basically gave me an ultimatum, she's like, you're not yourself. Like, you need to figure something out right now. And that's like the moment that it's stuck. And I was like, wow, I do need to do something about this because I'm not taking care of myself.
Yep.
I'm so wrapped up in what's going on around me and trying to live somebody else's ideals and somebody else's life. Like, it's just not working for me. And it was from that point on that, you know, our relationship took a step, and we both have that common understanding where we need to do what we need to do for ourselves, and it only makes us better as we come back.
The other thing too, as a parent, I have the blessing as a parent is that my kids are watching how I spend my time.
Yeah.
My kids are watching how I take care of myself. They're watching how I let my wife take care of herself, my partner, and they're learning and growing. I want my kids to know that fitness is not something you do only if you can get to it. I want my kids to know that fitness is a daily routine. I want my kids to know that, you know, taking care of your body is a natural thing. It's not something that, again, is like if I can get to that after everything else is done. And, you know, one of the things my friend Chris Welch, who is a former CrossFit owner and CrossFit athlete, told me is, you want to know how you're doing as a parent or a family member? Ask everyone in your family separately, tell me what my favorite thing to do is. And if all of their answers are the same, then you'll know you're on the right path. And I had the chance to do that. And I went to each of my family members and I said, what do you think is my favorite thing to do in the world? My daughter said, hang out with your family. I went to my son separately, didn't know I was having this conversation. You like to hang out with us, Dad. I talked to my partner, Melissa. I said, what do you think my number one my favorite thing to do is? And she says, I think it's to hang out with us. A close second, you like to learn things.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, yes, yes. Like, they're validating how I'm spending my time. And if they were to say things like, well, you like to work a lot, or you're always on your phone, like, I'd be like, oh, crap. Like,
wow.
I'm not embodying my values, my priorities. So I think we have to ask the people in our life, like, what do you see me doing often, and how does it represent what you think I value?
Yeah.
And they'll be honest with you, hopefully, and say, you know, you're always working at home. Like, why don't you spend time with us? Or, you know, when we go away on vacation, like, you seem to care more about what's happening back home, you know, at work or whatever. And I think getting that feedback from people is really important, because we all like to think we're doing well, but the people who are living it with us really need to know if we're doing it well.
Oh, they're going to tell you the truth.
Right?
Out
Yeah,
of the
then
gate.
they'll tell you the truth. My kids are 6 and 9, and they're going to be honest with me.
Yeah.
Like, they're not going to sugarcoat something because to protect my feelings, they're going to tell me exactly how it is.
Yeah.
And I think our friends can do that too. Like, sometimes guys don't like to talk about this stuff, but like, talk to a guy friend and say, hey, what do you think I'm doing well right now? What do you think I could do better? Or, you know, how do you think I'm helping people right now? And they should be able to, like, give you advice, give you feedback. But to just go through the day-to-day without getting feedback from people on how they think we're doing or what they see us doing, I think is it's a missed opportunity.
Yeah, and I think it's important to people have those relationships in their life, because, you know, I think by doing what you do every single year and, you know, going around and preaching this message and getting on a podcast, you know, we'll blast this out to the world, and we're going to start to see these little clips come out, and it'll be on YouTube. But, you know, hopefully it gets people to understand and see how important it is, because I know in some aspects you can't just go up to somebody and be vulnerable like that, or they'll give you shit back or something like that. And I hope that message is changing. And I've found super important relationships in my life, and mainly they've come from the CrossFit gym, and it's connected me to people like you. It's connected me to certain people in my mentorship group that I can call them at any time and be like, hey, I'm feeling this way. And, you know, I have this conversation with my buddy Sean all the time. And have you read Matthew McConaughey's book, Green Lights? All right. Well,
is it good?
Don't read it. Listen to it.
Okay.
Because he reads it.
Yep.
And it just makes it that much better.
Okay.
But there's a point in that book, and, you know, if you've heard me talk about this a bunch of times. And I think everybody has this natural inclination, natural drive to solve other people's problems, when sometimes you just need to say, hey, me too.
Yeah.
And someone just needs to know that they're not the only one going through it.
Or tell me more.
Yeah, that's it. And just sit and listen.
Yeah.
But, like, actually listen.
Yeah.
Don't just, like, let them talk.
Yep.
And it's crazy when you start to do that and you start to be there for somebody. Most people don't want you to tell them how to solve their problems. It just causes more stress. But to be that person for somebody to just listen for a second and watch that weight lift off their shoulders, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And the reason that I get to that is because guys are reluctant to do that. But to find somebody that is willing to be that friend for you is so freaking important. And
Yeah.
it's awesome.
Yeah, I think about my evolution in my friendships, I used to think that love and trust were like this. So you only love the best parts of me.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever I feel good about is what you should love, and I should hide everything else from you.
Mm.
Now I've learned that love is like loving everything. Loving that you're not perfect, loving even the not great parts. And then trust used to be something where it's like, trust means that you're not going to hurt me. And what I think trust now is like, trust means you're going to be honest with me, and in that honesty, you're not going to hurt me, but you're actually going to make me better.
Yeah.
And like, I think if we can take a kind of a more mature view of love and trust, then we allow space for our friends to give us honest feedback, our friends to say, hey, you've been eating like crap. You can't stop drinking when we go out. What's going on with you? And you're a better man than that. Or I think you're in a dark place through these behaviors. How can I help you out? And I think, if we take that approach, love and trust is no longer something where it's only the good and it's avoiding pain. Like, trust to me is like, tell me the things that I'm doing to put myself in pain. Be honest with me. So I think, like, as we get older, maybe wiser too, I don't know, it's like love and trust becomes more complex, and it allows us to be more human, I think.
Yeah, that's kind of an amazing way to put it. And I've had that realization over the last 8 years, especially, in my relationship with Courtney, and we just recently got married, and I could see the 20-year-old me looking at it as that very simple definition of it. But then as we've grown, like, we've been through such an experience where we've made each other better and we've pushed each other to be better. But we've also had like this unconditional love where it's like, there's a lot of things that I suck at, and, we're open and honest about that, and we can come to appreciate it because we still, even what most people would perceive as downfalls, we still love that about each other. And it's important to have friends like that too, because I can look back on my life and I can see friends that I didn't have that with, but I can see friends that, I didn't even realize that would be such long-term friends, but they're the friends that are like that. And it's like, when you can find that relationship in people, man, like, your personal life just starts to skyrocket because you don't feel like you're alone. And I think feeling alone is the worst feeling in the world.
Yeah. And I also think my relationships, we're not so much working on being together as we are working on ourselves so that we can be together. Like, if we're so codependent on each other for like all of our needs and all of our self-esteem, then we actually haven't done the hard work individually.
Yeah.
Like, I want my wife to be working on her things. I want to be working on my things. And we can brainstorm, but it's still our individual responsibilities, so that when we come together and we try to parent, or we try to like move our friendship, our relationship forward, we're not carrying the baggage or the demons that we each carry. Like, those things have been worked out individually, so that when we come together, we're able to move forward, versus like, we've never worked on those things separately. We come together and then the whole thing's a junk show. Like,
yeah.
I think there's a responsibility that people in relationships have, whether it's romantic, friend, boss, employee, whatever. You always got to be working on yourself so that the work between people can happen at a better, more healthy way. But I think it's like the people that never do their own individual work and just expect to show up and be good leaders, or expect to show up and be a good husband or wife or partner, like, that just doesn't happen.
No.
So that's why the space to work on yourself is a gift. And if you have a partner or a friend who's like, I see you working on this stuff, I love you, I'm with you on this journey, good luck, like, you're doing great. But if they don't allow you to work on yourself, then like, how are you going to be better in the relationship?
Yeah.
So I think it's all connected. And I think the work of Movember is really like, what can we do to allow men the space, the norms, the grace, and the patience to work on the things they need to work on honestly and with vulnerability out in the open.
Yeah.
The men shouldn't be secluded in the dark, shunned away from people because they're not perfect.
Yeah.
But that's the prison cell we've created.
Yeah.
One of the sayings I love is that fish are often the last to notice the water that they're swimming in. And like, and I'm sure women have their own norms and kind of restrictions in their socialization, but men, like, we take for granted all the things that we process throughout the day, and we internalize them, and before you know it, we've created these mental models that are so unhealthy and don't support us at all, but we keep doing them over and over again. So I think we really have to find the space, the conversations, the friendships, the purposes in our life that allow us to step back and say, is this serving me? Because if it's not serving me, why the hell am I doing it?
Yeah.
You know? And I think one of the things I've heard in your story that I admire is, like, you went into this passion project, changed careers, changed your whole paradigm because you're like, that's not the world I want to be in. And it probably wasn't easy, you know, at first, probably scary, probably like, what the hell am I doing? But you're still building, you're still working on yourself. And I think the best work we can do professionally is the work that forces us to work on ourselves. And you're in this space where it's like all you're doing is personal development, right? Like, that's the whole world you're in, and you have to model it. So therefore, to be good at your job and encourage others, you have to do it yourself. So I applaud you, because that's not an easy thing to do. And I'm sure a lot of people are like, what the hell are you doing, John?
Yeah.
And you were probably like, I don't really know, but I'm going to have a little faith. I'm going to ask for a lot of love and trust in the complex way so that I know where I stand. I'm getting healthier. I'm getting better. I'm going to try something. I'm going to learn a ton about myself. And at the end of the day, that's going to be worth it.
Yeah, 100%. And it has been challenging, but something that I've noticed in these last 4 years of business ownership and gym ownership is I've been my biggest asset. And when I can make myself better, I've noticed everything get better around me. And like, you can have whatever business principles, MBA you want in your back pocket, you know, leadership skills, yada, 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 know how to use Microsoft Excel and budget. But when you're not working on yourself and making yourself your best asset and learning how to communicate with people and make them better around you, like, that's the money maker right there.
Yeah.
Like, that's the key. And, you know, if you can approach life to make other people better, like, you know, you're going to be so fulfilled when you do that. And, you know, I had my first coach before I got into coaching and gym ownership. It was Justin up at CrossFit Portsmouth. And
Good guy.
Oh, best guy. I just talked to him the other day. But something that stuck with me with him is he always led from the front. Like, he would never ask anybody to do anything that he wouldn't do. And it was like, when I saw him doing the things that I saw in a good leader and a good coach, and modeling what a healthy lifestyle looked like and how to have balance but also have that family time and everything like that stuck with me. And, you know, I made myself my biggest asset, and I always wanted to lead from the front when I started this. And I remember I was sitting right over there, and I made the call to my boss, and I was like, hey, I'm not coming back after COVID. And they were like, what the hell? And I remember it was just like, I wanted to throw up, but I felt so light at the same time. And that started that adventure of what I wanted to do was break down barriers in people's lives. And it wasn't just fitness related, because I had come from the world of depression. I have seen the light at the other side of it. I saw how much this helped me through that. And, you know, whether it was right away or every year after that, I was going to keep preaching the message that this is more than just fitness. Fitness is the vessel that we use to get to where we want to go. But I'm telling you, the thing is greater at the end. Mm-hmm. And you might not notice it right now. You might not notice it 6 months from now. But at some point, you're going to see what I'm talking about. And I think this is like a good way to loop it all back in, because CrossFit has changed our lives, and exercise and having that community. And, you know, just to dive back in, like, how has that played a role in everything in your life from before, you know, when you were dealing with stuff to when you found CrossFit to why we do this? And the reason that I do that is because, you know, it's been a year since we did the last podcast. There's new people that listen to the podcast. It could be their first time.
Yeah.
Like, have them understand how powerful this thing is.
So I was just, I'm a big believer in, like, signs of, if we listen and we open up our eyes and ears during the day instead of just being on autopilot, things will pop into our consciousness that if we don't take the time to process it or look at it, it's a loss for us. So I was on my way here. I stopped for a second, get a coffee, and I was like looking through my LinkedIn, and I came across Tony Robbins. He just wrote an article that was on LinkedIn, and the whole question was, and I wasn't looking for this, but I just opened it on the way to our podcast today, and he's saying that any business owner, and I think it's really any profession, should be asking themselves, the number one question is, what business are you really in? It's not what you think you're in, but it's like, what business are you really in? So for me, I think about like the business I'm in is educational administration. I'm a middle school principal. That's my kind of position. But if you ask me what's the position I'm really in, or what's the business I'm really in, it's changing the lives of boys and men one conversation at a time.
Yeah.
And, it's not so much the formal work we do, but it's like, what is the core aspect of your vocation, of your purpose, that transcends any specific role or title you have? It's like how you live your life.
Yeah.
And I think this Movember work for me complements my work with boys in schools. I work at an all-boys school. It complements the work I do with teams and coaches. It complements the work I do with raising my son. It complements the work I do out in the world, where I try to like just let's focus on men and boys and how can we change their life. And for you, it seems like your journey about what's the business we're really in, it's not just owning a CrossFit gym and turning on the lights and locking and unlocking the door. The business that you're really in is you're trying to show people a path to self-improvement.
Yeah.
And I think when you go back to your conversation about leading from the front, nobody is looking for a superhero to walk in the door and like whisk them away. They're looking for ordinary people who do extraordinary things consistently with humility. And I think that's what you're doing. It's like, I don't think you or I have any special gifts that no one else has. We're just locked into a purpose of like, what is our business really about? And yours is a for-profit, mine is a non-profit, but it's like, it's the same thing where it's like, this is the core principle that we believe in, and we're going to do as much of it as we can all the time.
Yeah.
And there's no end date.
No.
Like, we can always improve. We can always look for men and boys who are suffering and bring them back to health and connection. So it's like, it's the chase, it's the pursuit, and like, it's not the salary, right? It's not the promotion, but it's like, it's how you live your life. And I want to spread joy and optimism and good news to boys and men. And I know you want to do the same thing for CrossFit members, community members, people that you come across with. And I think that's the gift of when you can tap into that primary purpose or passion that you have and inspire others, not because of your greatness, but because of the clarity of your vision. I think people want that.
Yeah.
The world is full of noise and chaos everywhere. No one's focused. No one's committed to anything. And when they see people that are like clearly focused on a purpose, it's like, it's novel and it's surprising, and it's like people really notice it. So I think it takes ordinary people that will be the change agents for the next generation. It's not going to be people that are out making millions of dollars. Those people will have their own agendas. I think it's ordinary people like you and I that go through hard times, and they use that darkness to like shine a new light out in the world because they made it through.
Yeah.
So I think people that are suffering right now, the story's not over. You're suffering, and there's a point to your suffering, and if you can make it through to the other side and understand it more, you can then be a light for others.
Yeah.
But you got to be patient.
Yeah.
You got to get through it.
100%. I think it's like, any good book that you read usually has a foreword, right? It's at the beginning. That's what you're in right now, right? We haven't even started writing the book yet of what it looks like on the other side. But you're 100% right. It's like the only way that I've known how to do this the best that I can is to show people what helped me. And I saw such a tremendous change in my own life going from rock bottom, like when I tell you awful, awful, to, oh man, like I can wake up in the morning and truly be happy and just like life is cool, man. Yeah. And that's not to say every day is like that. Like there are days that are, we call them $13 days. It's like, man, I'll sell the gym for $20 right now, right? But like at the end of those days, if I sit down, I'm like, all right, how many people have I impacted today? The purpose is greater, and I'm not doing anything special. I'm just showing people what helped me, and it might not resonate with everybody, but the small percentage of people that I can impact in my life and just sit on that forever, like I know that I made a difference, and that's worth it to me. Yeah. 100%.
And I think like you and I, with whatever demons or pressures or expectations that made us suffer in the past, they're not gone.
No.
They're still with us. Like I carry those around in my backpack. I'm sure you do too, and they come out. But the thing that we've learned is like we've learned routines, processes, people, relationships that can help us carry them with productivity and with health versus like destruction and disorder.
Yeah.
And I think that, that's also part of the thing is like, it's easy to sit here on a podcast and say like, we got it all figured out. Like we don't have it figured out, but it's part of that doing the work that we're still doing. That's part of the process. So you never get rid of those things.
Yeah.
Like we're still human beings.
Yeah. I mean, we can call my wife right now. My week last week was brutal.
Yeah.
And I started to see those tendencies dip back in. And like you said, I just have new tools to use to try to recognize that and pull myself out of it. And I'm not perfect at it by any means. It caught me for a couple of days last week, especially with the season changing and everything that was going on. But I think sometimes as those things start to come up, I become more aware of them happening. And it's kind of cool in the moment to be like, I know that 3 years ago I would have reacted to that totally differently. And then I just kind of sit down and I think about it. And then I just take a completely different approach. Yeah. And the more that you have the resources to talk to, the more self-development that you do working on yourself, the more you become aware to see these things as they come in front of you. Yep. And then it becomes a lot easier to approach them and deal with them in the right way. Yep. That's not going to leave you, stranded like you're in the bottom of a pit by yourself.
Correct. Yeah, and I think it's like, oh, hey, anxious friend, there you are again. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go work out, or I'm going to go talk to someone. Simon Sinek, who's a podcaster and author, he has this thing called 8-Minute Friends. Mm-hmm. And his thing is like, if I need someone, I'm going through a hard time and I need someone, I'm just going to send you a text and say, do you have 8 minutes? And that's like the code word for like, I'm going through it right now, I need you. Versus like, you'd send a text and it's like, hey, what's going on? Yeah, nothing much. Yeah. If I say I need 8 minutes, put down whatever you're doing and show up on my doorstep, or we're getting a conversation on the books in the next 24 hours. And I think we all need that. We all need that, and I think sometimes we retreat and go away from our problems versus running towards our problems. Yeah. What is it? Bison run towards the storm. Yep. Right? Like a lot of people, they either drink or they do things to run away from the storm. The storm's going to catch you eventually. Oh yeah. So you might as well go through it, face it, run into it, but with all your tools. Like use your friends. If you're on medication, use your medication. If like whatever it is, therapy, workout, fitness, but do it. Yeah. Like face it head on. Don't run away from it and hope that it won't come, because it's going to come. Oh yeah. But I think one of the things I'd like to do, if you don't mind shifting gears for a minute, is just talk a little bit about kind of the vision for Movember. Oh, man, I'd love it because, great. I mean, it feels like it develops every year for you and it just keeps getting bigger and more impactful. Yeah. Like, dude, do it up. Thanks, man. So I don't want to try to do the 30 for 30 thing because I'm getting older. It just takes a lot of time. Yeah, can we be honest for a second? That first year, how was that? Oh, it was rough. I got sick for like 6 days with strep throat. So there was one day I went to 5 different gyms in the same day and had 5 different workouts. It was nuts. But it was fun. I met a lot of people. There were people that would come up to me after my speech before the workout in a different gym or whatever, and they'd be like, "Thank you. My brother killed himself, or my husband is struggling with mental health. My son, has an addiction." And I think those people were like touched by my message, and like again, that's why you do it, right? It's like to get out there and connect with people and show them that you care. But this year I wrote a workout called Seek Help. It's a partner workout. It's 11 rounds, 19 calories on any machine, 11 box step overs with 2 dumbbells, 50, 35, and then 11 burpees to a target. And the idea is to do it as a partner workout and share the load however you want with a 30-minute time cap. And the significance, obviously, 11 is the month of November. 19 is 11/19 is International Men's Day, and this being a men's mental health campaign, I felt it was fitting to try to get as many gyms as I can to run this workout on 11/19. And that way, again, it minimizes me having to do everything for every day. But let's get the message out to a bunch of gyms to run this workout on that day, almost like a hero workout dedicated to men who are suffering. Talk about it, and then have everyone do the workout that day. And if people want to donate like $20 or $1 a round or whatever, we'll have the the link that they can donate directly to and it doesn't go in my pocket. It goes directly to Movember, and that would be a way. They could also just donate, anything they want. And then what I would love to do, if you can run the workout for that day for your classes, maybe there's another day in November I could come work out with like one of your busier classes and just introduce myself and talk a little bit about it.
Yeah.
And then obviously we'll have the content here from the podcast that you can share with members. But again, this is not about me. It's just trying to inspire people to be healthier, be vulnerable, share their own suffering. And if this is one way to do it, then, I'd be very proud if we could partner together.
Yeah. And honestly, local gyms, if you're seeing this, like, have Jason come out and do a workout with you guys one of the days. Like, if you can't make it happen in November, like, just reach out to him and get that done, because just, talking in front of a class in the beginning and letting them know what you're after. I know every year there's been guys in that class that they're like, oh, maybe it will go up and chat with them after. And like, if it plants that seed in someone's head,
Mm-hmm.
like that could be the small little pivot that they needed in their life to start to take a different trajectory.
Yep.
And, that is how we break down the barriers. And, with this podcast, there's going to be a ton of clips that come out. We're going to push that. And it's like, the more that we can talk about this, the more barriers we can break down and show that, hey, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to open up. And, there's people that got you. We're going to catch you. Like, that's the path forward, man.
Yeah. And in a perfect world, CrossFit HQ would adopt the workout and run it everywhere in the world on 11/19 in the future.
Man, should I cut a clip of this and just tag CrossFit?
I would love
time?
to. Let's be honest. If you look at all the public health data, men's morbidity and mortality, it's at an epic proportion. People are dying earlier. People are addicted. Chronic disease, suicide. It's an issue.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if CrossFit HQ is again geared towards curbing chronic illness and community and health, I don't think we can ignore men's health, and it would be awesome if they could help promote this as well. But anything anybody can do, and I appreciate all your efforts. And if anybody else sees this and wants to reach out and offer some support, I'd be honored. And I'll just continue to do my work no matter who shows up and who's ready to work out. And it's the journey I'm on. So I appreciate the partnership with you and your gym.
Man, I love it. And you're going to be here on the 19th.
Yes.
Awesome. So CrossFit Aries, he will be here on November 19th. We will do that workout. And anybody else that's interested, message me, message Jason, CrossFit HQ if you're watching this, which I hope you will. Make sure that gets out. Let's make this a big thing, because we can help a lot of people and save a lot of lives, more so than we do already.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, man.
Thanks,
thank
John.
you for coming out again, and let's go get a workout in.
All right, man. Thank you.
All right.